Don't get me wrong, I would imagine in every job there's good times, bad times.
Yeah.
But when you're marching through the middle of town and everybody's like cheering and clapping, and it's such a great feeling. Certainly in a big parade, and afterwards some of the older generation come up and shake your hand and say, like, I used to serve. Over 22 years I've done now. GTM is the sort of amalgamation of two trades, a general technician, mechanical. Before I was specifically a vehicle technician. Wherever you went, whether you went to an airbase or whether you went out in the field, you would try and set up an area that you would call your workshop. I'd probably chosen what I would consider the best trade for me. It's very hands-on, physical. I've always had an interest in sort of being a petrol head myself anyway.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped. But when you go, certainly with the formed unit I'm working with now, they specialise in security of airfields and hostile takeovers of airfields. And that their area, when you're thinking about the weapons of today, you could fire a rocket from 6 miles away and it could hit an aircraft.
Oh yeah.
So like when they're trying to protect an airfield, outside of the fence there is a massive area that they have to sort of get round. Certainly with the Royal Air Force, your whole goal is to make aircraft fly.
Yeah.
So whether I'm serving with infanteers, the guys who protect the airfield, or the truck that puts fuel in the aircraft, you're all working to that one goal of putting an aeroplane in the air.
Yeah.
Once you've got air superiority, you're laughing. If you haven't got that, you're going to take a hammering. You say a 6-month tour, but by the time you've done training before and then training while you're out there, it works out nigh on 9 months. You see very little of your family. So there is always that question. And oh great, I've got my career and I seem to be progressing quite well, but am I doing are they thinking the same, or are they absolutely hating me for it? Adjustment, that's probably the hardest bit of it.
Yeah.
Going is the easier bit really. Right a week before, a week and a half before is the stressful moment when you just want to go.
Yeah.
Let's just go, let's get out the door, let's get on with it. And I know Neely, my wife, is exactly the same. Like, you're doing my head in now, being here, preparing, just get out the door and go. But then returning, that is really hard. For me, that's really hard. You walk through the door and you're not in on the jokes, you're not in on what they normally do at the weekends, you don't talk the same kind of language. You've missed out on all that homework. They've progressed. It was kind of easy. You get into a routine with your wife or your husband, you get used to it kind of thing. But then when the children start to work out how many sleeps it is you're away, every phone call evolves around when you're coming back.
Yeah.
Hey, you've only got this many sleeps, Dad. This many sleeps, Dad. So that's, as they get older, it does get easier, because they, like, as a teenager, you sort of run your own, live your own life, as it were. As a younger, below the teenage years, you're effectively doing the same. You're going to school, you're doing your everyday stuff. This is the bit that sort of saves me a bit, where they've got to get out of bed and they've got to go to school and they've got to do the homework and tidy the bedrooms. It sort of helps me out a bit, because this is a routine that they've always got. Nice, it is always nice having a phone call.
Yeah.
Like, it's always, people say, lots of people are different. A lot of people like emails, text messages, whatever. I've always been a big fan of a letter. There's nothing nicer than getting a letter through the post. It's like, whoa, someone's remembered me. Everybody knows about the Americans. Shoot first, ask questions afterwards. In some ways, it can be really hard work. Rockets, mortars and rockets coming in. It was a big thing in Iraq, because it happened quite a lot. In Afghanistan, it doesn't happen so much.
No?
I don't know if that's terms of practice for them, I don't know if they're available to get as many. Certainly in Iraq, they seem to have hundreds of the bloody things. Constantly. Well, in one day, I think you'll find that something like 69 rockets came in. Not so much my attitude, my way of thinking now has changed. Brody's doing his GCSEs, we're going through a stage when the family needs to be at its most settled. And quite possibly for me, the only way to do that is to come out of the military, where I'm going to get a job that do every day, 8 to 5, 9 to 5, whatever. You've always got to remember what the world wars, what guys gave up. They gave up their lives for our way of life and for other people's ways of life. Bear in mind, these guys possibly joined up when they were 18, 19, 20, whatever age, but they did all their training together for a year, 18 months. They trained together, they learnt together, they went out drinking together, they tried to pull girlfriends together, they've been to each other's families, houses, everything. That's hard.
Yeah.
Certainly the younger guys, ouch. Poor bloke. Poor bloke. It just proves it's here.
As well as everywhere.
As everywhere, yeah. There will always be guys who go to the extreme of their religion, their beliefs. For me, religion has been one of the biggest causes, probably the biggest cause of wars in history.
Yeah.
I'm not mega religious. I'm Church of England. And I wouldn't be at all bothered if the man next to me was Muslim and praying his way. Yeah. Irrelevant of whether you think military is a good thing or a bad thing. When we went into Iraq, initially to get rid of a oppressive regime, Saddam Hussein. The fallout from that, okay, we got rid of him, essentially. The fallout from that was everybody had, each individual fraction within that country had a different, whether they had a different political belief or religious belief, they instantly got massive amounts of freedom overnight.